I got a thing from my early days of my undergraduate work called Cognitive Dissonance. Cognitive Dissonance. And I remembered that from years and years and years and years ago because it struck me interesting that in my psychology classes that it means when you disagree with reality. And there's not an option. The reality is reality. Water is wet and fire is hot. There's no mitigating that. That's a reality. But a person who has a cognitive problem disagrees with that. Now, they disagree with it because they're unable to access reality. Something about their makeup and their thinking process in their brain disavows their opportunity to understand empirically a real experience. And they just disagree. Now, something simple as water or fire, you'd think would that be, but there are things about our culture, about our reality, that people cognitively, they cannot appreciate reality. And black people in particular have a dissonance. They don't understand, they don't see the reality of the world in which we live. And so what they see is alleged to be racism or hatred or whatever, because they're unable to interpret the reality of the world in which we live. And so therefore they're bitter, they're hate-filled, etc. And then they've got the teachers and preachers that come on. See, this cognitive problem is not a problem that's just simply relegated to someone who is uneducated or someone who's an ex-convict or someone who's in prison or someone who's poor. It is a mental problem. It is if you will, sickle cell anemia. It's a cultural heritage problem that attacks even those who get PhD degrees or medical degrees from Harvard. They got the same problem. They got the same problem. They don't escape it. And until we come to terms with that, realize who we're dealing with. These people disagree with reality. And so until we attack that as a part of the process of training and developing and helping people, you may not have the mental capacity to interpret this situation in its fullest light and come to its most empirical understanding. But what we're going to do is that we're going to put you through a set of drills. We're going to tell you what reality is so that you will know it automatically, whether you know it intuitively or not. And so you won't go down that road anymore. Finally, there's a thing now going on in our world talking about dissonance cognitively, that people who are born boys reject that reality and say they want to be a girl. Now, they're not girls. They're not girls. The reality, the evidence is you are male. But if you talk to them, they'll say, no, I'm a female. But you say you have male equipment. Well, we'll just get rid of that and then get rid. Can you see the dissonance? That they've got a cognitive problem, that they don't, this is not something that they're saying because they're trying to be mean-spirited, cute. They really have a problem with reality. You're not a girl. You're not a girl. And to the girls, you're not a man. But they disagree with reality. The whole world knows the difference. And what's worse, like the black community, they got teachers and institutions and politicians telling them to disagree with reality. You can have as many operations as you want. You can't change reality. It's sick. But it isn't sick in the sense like cancer or measles or some other sickness. They really have a mental demon. That's what it is. It's a demon that prevents them. There's a great example in the Bible where a man brings his son to Jesus' disciples while he's up on the mount. And he says to the disciple, my son has a cognitive problem. He throws himself in the fire as if it's not hot. I have to tell him that's hot. He does it anyway. He does it anyway. Then he throws himself into the water. I tell him you'll drown if you do. He does it anyway. He cuts himself. The father says to the disciples. And he said, can you hear my boy? Because he doesn't recognize reality. That fire is hot. And the disciples pray and they do whatever they do. Nothing happens. But Jesus come down, you know the story. At least I hope you do in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 17. See, the problem with that boy is that he had a demon. And the demon blocked. And by the way, you can be Cornel West, or you can be Eddie Gloyd, or you can be the professor at Fordham. You can have a demon. You're not exempt. And if you got a demon, you will throw yourself into the LGBTQ fire. If you got that demon. We have to begin to teach it. Now, they're not going to accept this. We're insulated here, right? They listen to me right now, but they're not going to spread this word. They ain't going to let this word go nowhere. They ain't going to let this word get out. No. But you hear it. And even if that's not your problem of throwing yourself into the fire, because that's what every tranny does. That's what every lesbian does. You don't recognize reality. And when you don't recognize reality, you have to then suppose that what is the original intent of man is not God. Here, simple. If you believe that you should be a girl and you're a boy, then you have to discount God who had the original intent. The original intent to give you a penis was God. That's the original intent. So you not only have a problem with reality, you disavow the original intender of his intent for you. You disavow him and you take a position that is not of God by saying, I'm going to be a lesbo. You see, it's a demon. This is symbolic. It's where Jesus was baptized. It's where John baptized. And so this is not a rebaptism. It's just a symbolic, if you will, act of what we're going to do, being in the water at the place where Jesus was baptized. And what I'd like to do is to baptize today that we would come to terms with the understanding of what God is calling for in righteousness. He's not calling for prosperity. He isn't calling for culturalism. God is calling for righteousness. If we would commit ourselves to fulfill all righteousness, and God has calls us to be persecuted for righteousness' sake, as John was persecuted for righteousness, and so Jesus. I got to tell you that I'll never forget this experience of actually stepping in the water where Jesus were baptized and where John has baptized so many people. This is such a historic and a powerful, powerful sight. Just to touch the water was so critical. And I'm glad that people got baptized to have that experience. It was a safe experience and a great experience. I'm not even going to change my clothes. I want to just stay in baptism mode until I get back to the hotel. So that's what I want to say. All right.
This has been live from the Jordan River. God bless you all. Peace.
Righteousness. Boom, chakalaka goes right there.
Over the years, we have served more than 1 million meals to hungry bellies and hungry people here in the Harlem community. And I wanted you to be able to see that. I want you to see our involvement with youth, our summer youth programs, our courtyard being used as a place where children can be safe, guarded, and protected as they have their miniature swimming pools, and a safe place for children to eat that is guarded, that is protected by our own sense of security, and the wholesome and fresh meals that we serve. We wanted you to be able to see the mission of this church. And we've been doing this for years. Just recently, one of our members, more than a 30-year member of this church, but it hasn't, not one that, that you would probably find as members of some other churches with their nose stuck up in the air. But her father is now close to death or very sick in the state of South Carolina. And I said to her, well, because she doesn't have money. I said, we will buy you a bus ticket, a round trip bus or train ticket for you to travel to South Carolina to be with your father in this time of pandemic. There's very little funding around. There's sickness everywhere. And the thing that just blew me away was she said, as she was talking to Elizabeth, she said, but how are you going to do that? To pay for me a round trip ticket to travel and give me expense money? And because Pastor Manning has to feed the children, he has to educate the children, he has to buy school supplies for them, he has to pick them up in the mornings and take them back. And then he's got the ministry he has to take care of, all the bills of running the church, of keeping a major house like our house operational, keep the lights on, how are you going to be able to do that? And she was almost reluctant to take the money because she felt that it would be better served by feeding the children. We gave it to her anyway. But we want you to know that we do a work in this community. There have been a lot of lies told on us. And it's almost unimaginable why some of the people that have lied on us. But I can tell you behind all of it is the LGBTQ community. Hallelujah. They don't want us to be successful, but we are, and we're going to continue to be successful in serving the meals that we're serving and serving the people that we are. And the LGBTQ community will not take us down. They are not going to take our church. Yet they've defamed us. They've written ugly newspaper articles about us. They've marched against us. They've done a whole lot of ugly things. But you see what we have done, and that's not even the half of our service to children and to the needy in terms of our homeless shelters and the things that we've done over the years. And we will continue. And probably the lies and the smears and the ugly newspaper articles and the wicked spirits and the so-called I ain't for the black man, that is not going to go away. I don't expect it to go away. I don't. But I do tell you this, that we will succeed against all of that, for God is with us, and I am his servant.